Well, how's it going, backpackers and campers? Fireball coming at you with another edition of Off Grid. I'm into backpacking, hiking, camping, and gear, and I got another first look coming at you today. This one narrowly missed my new gear for 2024 video because I got it after I shot that video, but it's still new for this year, and I decided to revisit my ultra lightweight loadout kit. So that's going to be coming up on the channel pretty soon. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're interested in those types of things. But in revisiting that list and kind of refining it, I was like, where can I shave off those ounces, right? So for those UL kits, every ounce counts and every quarter of an ounce also counts. So long roundabout to basically say I picked up a new pad, and it is this guy right here by Exped. Now this is another company that I had mentioned in one of my shorts that was a gray area company for me because I own their camp slippers, but I didn't really hear of anything else from them. I've heard of their pads before and people using them, but I wasn't really sold on them for reasons that I'm going to get into this video. But let's dive right into the first look on this guy here. This version is called their 1R Ultra, and I got the long and wide mummy cut version of this pad. So we're gonna get into the specs, the price points, and just kind of do a deep dive like I normally do on these things, and throwing in some goody B-roll for you to check out. But let's dive right into this guy right now. Let's get the specs and the materials out of the way first. For the material, it's made out of a recycled 20D ripstop polyester, so I really like the fact that they're using recycled materials in their pads, which is pretty cool. And they have that printed on the mat itself as well. And let's get over into the specs. I'm going to throw all the specs on screen for the other pads here, but I'm just going to dive into the one that I got here for this mummy cut one. Long and wide, they're saying that it weighs 14.3 ounces. I'm going to circle back to that in a hot second. The overall width is 25.6 inches at the shoulder, and then the foot width is 16.5 inches. So it goes down by nearly 10 inches from up by your shoulders down to your feet. And then the overall length on the long and wide is 77.6 inches. For the pack dimensions, it is 8.3 inches by 4.3 inches. And what else can we do here? What else can I throw in? They've got an ASTM rating that's really cool and kind of trustworthy to go off of here of 1.3. So this is definitely a warmer weather pad here. So it's not going to provide a whole lot of warmth. And I'll get into who I think this is kind of for in a hot second as well here. But let's circle back around to the overall weight because they're saying 14.3 here. But I know a lot of times with sleeping pads, it doesn't really get into all kind of like the, you know, the nooks and crannies and everything, right? Because they usually include a patch kit with it. You've got the stuff sack that they come with it. And then they also sometimes include a pump sack, which this one does as well. So let me break down the weights a little bit more for you guys here. For just the weight of the pad on my scale, I have it at 13.5 ounces, 13.55 ounces. If you were to include everything that it comes with, it comes in on my scale at 16.65 ounces. The stuff sack is right around 2 ounces. And if you were to basically, you know, get rid of the stuff sack and just bring the pad and the pump sack, you're looking at somewhere around that 15.5 ounce mark. So pretty competitive in the ultra lightweight category. The only thing that I can think of that really beats this would probably be the Thermarest pads, but I really hate those horizontal baffles. So let's talk about the baffling for a second. One of the reasons why I was kind of apprehensive about picking this up as well is because it goes with a vertical baffling system. I've tried the horizontal baffling system. I had one of the Trekology pads that had that, and it stunk. I hated it. It was like the worst night's sleep ever on that pad. And then I quickly switched over to the waffle style from Nemo and their Tensor line, which I really love. And then I ended up picking another warmer weather pad, and this is not meant to be a comparison, but you might see it in some of the B-roll in this video, and that is the Sea to Summit Etherlite XT non-insulated pad. And that goes with more of the quilted pattern because I've heard that those are the most comfortable, and I can attest that that is definitely a lot more comfortable than the horizontal style. But I never tried the vertical baffling style, so I figured I'd give this a go here. Just to see if it's not as bad as the horizontal. I don't really have lofty hopes that this is going to be better than the quilted style or that waffle style from Nemo, but figured I'd give it a shot anyway. All right, what else can we talk about with this pad? Let's get into the warmth. So that ASTM rating of 1.3 right now. So my Sea to Summit pad is at like a 1.2, same style of rating system. And I'm a warmer type of sleeper, so if you are too, then this might more closely align with you. But I am able to get that pad down safely to around 50 degrees, being a warmer style of sleeper with an appropriately paired quilt or sleeping bag with it. But I also end up bringing a closed cell foam pad from Outdoor Vitals, and that adds just a little bit of R value to it, about a half a point, so about 0.5 R value. So with that, used in conjunction with this one for the majority of my upper torso, because it's not a full-length pad, for the foam pad, you can get that up to somewhere around that 2 level. So I would definitely recommend somewhere around the mid to upper 40s. You can safely go with this style of system here. So that's pretty good and can get you down into those shoulder months, or the beginning of those shoulder months for spring and fall, or late spring and early fall. As for the total loft here, I wasn't able to find it on their main website. At REI, they claim it's around 3 inches, but when I was measuring it, it's actually closer to 3¼ inches. I don't think it's quite 3½, but definitely a decent amount of loft if you're a side and stomach sleeper like I am. The next thing that I'm going to mention here is going to be their pump sack, which they call a schnozzle pump sack. I think they ended up calling it. It's a weird name for it. But the thing is massive. It's huge. Actually, let me pull it out of the bag here and show you here. Got to wrap it around the pad. This thing is like pretty massive. I don't know if it's like a 20-liter size or what. It says medium on it over here, down at the bottom. And they have a more narrow end here that just, traditional pops open and then securely latches to your pad. But on this other end here, they decided to go with a closure like buckle system here. So I think what you can end up doing is, especially because it has such a wide mouth here, you can end up using this and doubling it almost as a definitely as like a compression sack, because this material here is a little bit harder too, a little bit more rigid, so you can roll it down if you need to. Obviously it's a great design to get air into the pad, but this thing is like massive. I don't think you can pick it up on screen, but it's huge. And I think I only really need like 1 to 2 of these bags to fill up the long and wide pad, which is pretty amazing. But just based off of the size of this, I'm not sure if it's completely waterproof, but this is almost the size of my pack liner. So if I could, use it as like double duty and get rid of the weight of my pack liner, I'm not sure if this is 100% waterproof. So I'd have to, test that first. I can't really recommend that, but if it is, it could definitely do some double duty for me there. So it just kind of came to me while I'm shooting this video. I might actually be able to use it for something else, but definitely as a compression sack, dirty laundry, whatever, it can kind of do double duty for that. The only thing that you might think of here is like blowing up the bag might be a little bit harder than like the narrow opening of the Nemo pump sack, but that wasn't really that big of an issue for me. So the pump sack I think works really well with this pad. So back to the pad now. They've got both an input and an output nozzle here. I mean, it definitely makes it easier because they're both labeled as well, so you can't really mess it up. But I'm not really sure if that is the lightest weight that it can go with here. They also included this little sort of like key ring attachment here to make micro adjustments for the in valve here. So you can see the in valve has the standard push button valve, so you can get the amount of air that you really want in there and out of there quite easily. And you can do that with your finger, so if you want to save like a gram or 2, you can probably take this off as well. But that kind of leads me to another point that I'm not super thrilled about with this pad as far as like a con goes, is that these valves are on the underside of the pad. So if you're laying on the pad and you want to make micro adjustments either at night or before you crawl into your sleeping bag at night, you're not able to do that. So I would definitely recommend like figuring all that out before you go to sleep at night. But kind of flipping it back over to the good side of things on this pad is that Because it's a warmer weather pad, right, I'm not really worried as much about the insulation from underneath me and the ground underneath me. So unless it's like one of the, like pushing it to those colder nights, I would say that you can let out a decent amount of air from this thing, and I did in testing, just because I was trying to like figure out the comfort range on this thing and make it as, you know, as comfortable as possible. And you definitely need to do that with this pad, especially if you're, you know, more used to that quilted style of you know, pad and sleeping on those types of pads. The other thing I'm going to mention here, I'm kind of going like back and forth and all over the place. It's not as structured, so I apologize. But for the Pro on this one, so it's made out of a poly. It feels like a poly for the most part, and I'm not sure you're going to be able to pick it up on camera here, but there is some stitching. There's like a cross stitching that goes all throughout the top of this pad. I'm not sure if that's just in the design of the top of the pad, but it's not made, I don't think, of necessarily just one huge sheet. But if it is, I apologize, but they definitely added additional stitching here. You can see this square stitching style on the top of it, and I think what that ends up doing is giving it a little bit more of a comfort feeling to the top of the pad. So when comparing that to some of the other pads that I've used before that are of the similar material, that polyester material, you can definitely get that like sticky garbage bag style feeling to it, especially if you're just wearing base layers at night and your skin comes in direct contact with the pad. So there's a lot being done to try and mitigate that nowadays in sleeping pad technology. I'm not sure this is, you know, the most comfortable as far as like the topper goes for the pad, but this definitely has a more comfortable feel than like my Sea to Summit polyester style pad. All right, what else can I say about this pad? So I ended up getting the mummy shape. They actually have a lot of different cuts and a lot of different temperature ratings in this Ultra, I guess they call it, design. They have like a 1R, they have a 3R, and I think they might have a 5R as well. And all those numbers denote what the R value basically is, or the R value range for it. So I decided to get the mummy cut because I wanted to be as lightweight as possible, but still having a wide and long pad, because I'm at 5'8", but I definitely need a wide and long pad. I definitely would recommend that for anybody right around my height and definitely taller. The only ones that I would recommend that regular length for, which is usually 72 inches or 6 feet, would be anybody who's probably around 5'5" or smaller. If you're even like my height, I'm not that tall, but even at my height, I definitely am more conscious at that 72 inches of my feet kind of falling off or having to sit on the pad just right. By having a longer pad, and again, this one is what, like 77 inches, something like that, it definitely gives you more peace of mind knowing that you're not going to just fall off the pad at night. That being said, one of the potential negatives that I can see with this pad is the aggressive cut for the mummy shape of this pad. So my Sea to Summit has a similar width at the shoulders, but it only tapers down to about 20 to 20 and a half inches at the feet. This one is 16 and a half inches, and you feel it. Like that extra 4 inches definitely narrows down. The other thing too is how aggressive that cut is from the shoulders down to the feet, and this one just takes off. Like from your shoulders, it just starts cutting in almost immediately. So I think a potential big negative on this is just the amount of overall coverage you have for your body. I'm not like a huge guy, but I definitely, it just kind of like laying on it and like testing it out in my house and whatnot, it definitely feels like there's not a lot of space on this thing. The other thing where this is more aggressive is also at the head end. So the shoulders is where it kind of flares out, but it also has another peak towards the head end. So it's wider here, and then it kind of comes back up to a peak at your head. And the Sea to Summit pad doesn't do that. It's basically just like a big box right around your head and your shoulders. And that might not seem like a big thing to you, but if you are a side and stomach sleeper, if you like to put your arms like underneath yourself at night, having that little bit of extra real estate up by your head there makes a big difference, believe it or not. So I'm a little bit weary about how aggressive the cut is and the taper is on this pad compared to like my Sea to Summit pad. And then the last big question mark here obviously is going to be the overall comfort. Comfort is king with me. That is definitely my number one thing that I'm always looking for here, regardless of anything else. And I'm not sure that the vertical baffles are going to really do it for me. However, if it's comfortable enough, if I'm still getting an okay night's sleep on it, but not horrible and not waking up multiple times throughout the night, then I think it's worth keeping just for those super ultra light 1 to 2 night, trips, overnighters or quick weekend trips where I want to be as lightweight as possible. It might still have a spot in my lineup just for that. So definitely intrigued by this. Oh, one thing that I didn't mention is the price point. So it comes in at $139.95, so roughly $140. I got this on sale at REI, 25% off. It only wound up being about 108 bucks off of REI. They were running a sale on it. And another reason why I wanted to get it from REI is because they have their excellent return policy. And if I didn't like the vertical baffling on this and it wasn't that comfortable, I can easily just return it within a year. So it really is a low risk when you get it from REI. If you want to just try it out and you don't like it, you can easily return it. So that's another pro I would say, is that the price point is really competitive for a warmer weather pad. But again, not to be a comparison video here to the Sea to Summit, but that one starts at, I think, $189. So just at the normal MSRP, this is coming in at 50 bucks less. So it's I would say it's definitely more of a budget friendly option pad out there. There's definitely cheaper ones that you can get, but for one of the bigger names, this is a pretty decent price. So that's going to do it. I think I've been rambling on long enough for you guys here for a first look video. Thanks so much for watching this week, guys. If you have an Exped mat with this vertical baffling style, because I think pretty much almost all of their pads have this similar style, let me know in the comments down below if you have one, if you like this pad. If you're not a fan of horizontal pads, does this vertical baffling work for you? I definitely want to hear all about it in the comments down below. Can't wait to get this one out. Again, this is just going to be solely for my warmer weather trips, and I'm hopefully going to be out there soon to break this one out, because I want to bring this one out in particular for that ultra lightweight loadout testing as well. So super interested in testing this one out and getting it out in the field and reporting back for you guys on whether or not this is going to be a winner for me. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. Thanks so much for watching. You rock. And remember, if you're headed off grid, make sure you do your research and you make it a safe one, and I'll see you on the next one. And remember, if you're headed off grid, make sure you do your research and you do it a safe one, and you do it a safe one.